Hello and good morning. It is Friday, the 10th of December 2021. My name is Steve Pugh, if we don't know each other, and every Friday morning I do a bit of a Q&A kind of live stream. I'm based here in the UK, so actually in the town or city called Newcastle in the UK in the north of England. And basically what I do, I have a business course called the Roadmap MBA, which is now in 24 different countries. We added Portugal kind of recently. And what we try and do is that we try and make business education accessible in terms of both the content that we teach, the price and the access that we kind of give people, but actually not everyone likes to learn through reading as well. So what we do is we do Q&As, we do podcasts, we do live streams, we do Zoom kind of drop-in classroom sessions where basically across the book, which is now 252 kind of pages, this goes through the whole roadmap to help you grow either your business or career, hence why the name, the roadmap. But then what we also do is that a lot of people really just wanted the confidence to help understand, is what they're doing correct? How can they apply it to their business? They might have a particular challenge about a certain thing. And actually the whole point of both the Q&A sessions and then likewise for the classroom sessions, it's just a great way for you to drop in, say hello, ask me anything. I'm expecting some of the regulars, maybe Matthew Ward, to ask me about hair products today, which would be quite funny. But the point is I just kind of do this as a way to interact, and it's, you know, it's good publicity for me, but then likewise it's just a different kind of service offer. What someone's already done and I haven't read it yet, good morning Matt, there we go, I knew this was going to come up, is if you comment on the screen it comes up live, and then what I try and do is answer it as best I can. So Matt, I'm going to come to you in a second. And then what I do is I draw concepts out on the whiteboard. I've got a few new things that I'm kind of starting to roll out. And then basically over the next kind of half an hour or so, if you're interested, you can join. If not, like, no worries. And yeah, hopefully this is just a stream that might be interesting to you. And basically we broadcast on LinkedIn Live, both on my personal and my company accounts. We've got Twitter, we have Twitch, we have Facebook, we have YouTube and a few others as well. And yeah, this is just an interactive thing, so I can't wait to see. I'm worried that he's pre-prepared this because it's very long anyway, but I can't wait to kind of catch up and see what it's like. So just before I jump into Matt's, because I'm sure it's going to throw me off track a little bit. What I also like to do is recap on the week. So as a fellow kind of entrepreneur myself, every week you'll probably see me make a little bit of progress on little kind of things. But part of the reason why I like to almost share my own journey and share some stuff that I'm doing is, for one, it adds credibility to the course, that likewise you're hopefully learning from someone that's actually doing stuff. That I think you get far too many people who talk the talk but don't actually do anything, or they just teach someone else's theory, as well as someone that actually does this and executes every week and that kind of thing. Hopefully you can kind of see the progression. But then likewise celebrating with some of the people who were on the course to go through their journey, what they're doing, and help them kind of move along, which is quite cool. Some of the stuff I've got coming up, I have a brilliant interview scheduled for Monday with a lady in California called Amisha Patel that I've known for quite a long time. We're going to talk a lot of offshore wind related stuff, floating wind, but also her journey, how she got into politics and comms and lobbying and that kind of thing. But I think it should be really kind of interesting to watch. The drop-in sessions are now back, so you're more than welcome to come. These are UK times, so it's Tuesday 3 p.m, Tuesday 8 p.m, Thursday 7 a.m, and then lunchtime today. If you're cool, that's fine, but the point is they're there if you need it, and it's that whole essence of just the interactivity that you can join, kind of should you wish. And then one guy I just want to give a shout out to as well is Connor Thornbury from Rise at 7, reached out yesterday. I love their source content that they put out onto YouTube. As a fellow kind of YouTuber, I always appreciate people's content of what they kind of do and don't do and talk about and stuff as well. So if you haven't, check out the Rise at 7 guys and the source on YouTube, and what they're doing is sharing their journey. Obviously a slightly bigger team than kind of where I am, but it's just something to really kind of look at. So Matt, I'm going to come to your comment now. I'm actually, Steve, give me a call after this to discuss your question, but great, see it offshore when the COVID needs to be seamless, more A to B for Ah, cool. I swear you pre-prepared that. The challenge is when this is actually live, I have to read it live and I'm trying to figure out. So yes, on today's kind of session, I have 4 new topics that I'm going to talk about. These all get kind of clipped up to go onto YouTube as their own separate video. All of them in many ways are just my own take on stuff, so please kind of take it as that. But actually, you know, someone that works with a lot of businesses and kind of, you know, gets paid to do this day by day to help businesses grow, what I always like to do is, because this is genuinely kind of live, is react to real things that happen throughout the week or throughout the month, kind of thing that people are really talking about. The other topics I'm going to talk about is actually how do you balance your workload around the holidays? This was a question that came from the Tuesday 8 p.m. session from Fina, who asked me basically just that we thought it'd be a really interesting topic to talk about, because a lot of people are kind of, you know, struggling with this and dealing with how over the next kind of 4 weeks do you, you know, get through it, I guess. We've got sales, pros and cons, really interesting actually. So that I do sales training as part of this and as part of the course, and there's kind of 3 modules just on sales. But actually with clients, there's also the element of, which I won't ruin the answer, there's the big difference between the theory, and we can teach you to do all the best techniques in the world, but the most important thing is actually the practice and actually doing it. And I've got some great examples, so I'm going to shout out some of the people to do with that as well. And then last but not least, as we start to head towards 2022, is actually planning for next year. How to approach it, what's the easiest way to approach it. I know it can be quite kind of daunting to go for and go to. So what I thought I would also do is just give you a bit of a walkthrough on my roadmap, almost what am I planning to do, what was the last 2 years been like, and actually what am I planning to do next year, maybe the year after, just to almost give you the high level themes of stuff that I'm looking to do, but then also you'll see me hopefully execute against it over time as well. So hopefully this is interesting. I did actually start it a little bit early, and normally I start these at 9 o'clock, but one of the things that I kind of realized is that a lot of people go into meetings at 9 o'clock, or their calls start at 9 o'clock. So I thought, I'm going to start early, and then actually it gives me a little bit of freedom as well, just to kind of get used to and jump into stuff as well. But at any point, please kind of feel free to get in touch. It does pop up on the screen. I love the interactivity. If you can, keep the comments short just so I can read it, because just big paragraphs kind of throw me off. But Matt, it was great to see you last week as well. So the first one I'm going to talk about, and actually I don't need the pens for this. So there's the Omicron variant now for COVID. I think we've all been through this kind of shitstorm, if you want to put it that way, over the past kind of, 2-3 years, where actually a lot of stuff's happened. A lot of the inspiration for this and what I wanted to do actually came from the first kind of lockdown. I was already kind of mid-writing the book and kind of doing all the stuff towards that. But it was the concept of the potential for live streaming and online content as a way to hit lots of people, I thought was really interesting. And it's something that I didn't know how to do. I didn't know how to stream or OBS or YouTube. I'd done a little bit of YouTube, but it was all kind of from scratch. But what I think was quite interesting is that for a lot of people, businesses reacted to what we needed to do to keep people safe and actually help all of us kind of move forward, if that makes sense, and just kind of get through the period. What's then happened is obviously we started to, hopefully, at least in the UK, get through. A lot of people got vaccinated, and we started to kind of, what I felt was come out of it. And until a month ago, maybe a few weeks ago, I think a lot of businesses were actually starting to look at, okay, well, things are starting to get back to normal. More people are going back to the office more of the time. And what I think's happened with the latest variant is almost that because of the kick in the teeth in some ways, that obviously it's nobody's fault that this happens, but the point is how we kind of react to it. I think now a lot of people, more so than maybe even like a few weeks ago, expect this to be the new normal. Almost I'm now expecting that there will always be some sort of COVID. After Omicron, it'll be something else. After that, it'll be something else. And almost in the same way that we lived with kind of the flu and lots of other things, that we just get on with it. Part of me now thinks that businesses will actually have to react and change to, rather than get through COVID, to get back to normal. Almost it's the mindset shift to actually, this is now the normal, accept it, embrace it. And actually, if you can make this work, because there are still a lot of benefits to embracing remote working for your ability to grow, your ability to hire people, how efficient your team can be, reducing wasted travel time. Using Matt's example, hi to the guys on Twitch as well. I always love people who comment on Twitch. That's awesome. But the point is, it's how we kind of do this. And I think just the way the world is going to kind of move forward is quite interesting. That like the growth, I was never convinced if you went back 5 years in online gaming. I never quite understood esports in a way. I never understood why would people actually watch someone else play a computer game. But I now get it, and it's almost, there is this cultural shift, a way to move away from physical stuff to digital and remote, but how you work with your team. But almost, I think if it hadn't already, the latest variant, I think, will cement this behavior. And I just thought it was a really interesting kind of thing to talk about. I think a lot of places like vaccine passports and things that have really kind of come in, I think will now almost become the norm. I know there was a lot of, it is debate really about do you need to get a vaccine? Is it safe to get the vaccine, etc. My personal belief is that it is. And then yes, you could potentially have a two-tier system where some people have it, some people don't. But then do you not let the people without the vaccine in? Does that make sense? And I think this is a really critical one, especially in like hospitality and retail and stuff, because again, you could potentially lose a large part of your trade. But the one thing that actually I always come back to with COVID is that in essence, even if you have the vaccine, your symptoms are lower, so you're less likely to die, but you can still transmit it to other people. So the argument is people who have the vaccine are more protected, but they're actually arguably, and please correct me if I'm wrong, no more transmissible than people that don't. So arguably, if you don't want to get the vaccine, it's only your own risk. You're actually putting it, at stake. It's not actually putting anyone else at more risk. But I think this is where the policymakers and people much more important than me all kind of do it. But almost as a business, we all have a duty to look after our people, look after our staff, and actually how do we build for the future and make our customers safe. But the point of this segment was actually with the latest Omicron kind of variant, I think this will really cement behaviors that people now, previously I think had the mentality to get through it and then get back to normal. I think now it's almost, okay, this is to stay, and then see how that kind of grows. I just thought it was interesting. I would love to know your comments. What do you think? How could this affect schools, colleges, shops, retail, hotels? Flights is a big one. I still haven't been on a plane for 2 years now, just to do with travel and COVID and stuff as well. But actually, I'd love to know your thoughts about what you think about the effect of the new variant on business and how we should kind of react to it. I'm just going to go back to Matt's comment just in case it's relevant. COVID needs to be seamless. Yeah. Yeah. If you can read it, I know it was on the screen, but it's almost Matt's comments are perfectly valid, and it's that contingency planning and actually how COVID and things affect supply chains and logistics, and it's a much more complicated thing than people might expect. So hopefully that was interesting. These all get clipped up and go onto YouTube. I shorten them a little bit and that kind of thing as well. But then likewise, if you have any comments or questions or anything, please put them in the comment and they pop up on screen. And then also thanks to the guy on Twitch as well. Twitch, if you don't know it, is a online digital platform. Used to be like it was launched about gaming and that kind of thing. That's almost how I know it, what it was almost famous for. But actually earlier in the week, there was something, I actually start to advertise from January when the magazine's launched. Its next edition is something called Freelancer Magazine. And Sophie and Angela that run that do a really kind of good job. But we actually had the Freelancer Magazine Christmas party on Wednesday night, I think it was, might have been Thursday. No, it was Wednesday. But they actually had a live DJ set via Twitch for the people. So the group joined on Zoom as a way to interact. But actually, the point is different digital platforms can be used in different ways. And one of my future guests who I'm going to have on, David Winter, if he kind of tunes into this, is an online gamer. He's got Affinity Racing. He's really into that. But genuinely is a platform to grow a career. Online gaming, esports, Twitch, etc. is a genuine thing now, in the same way with accountancy or law or engineering or whatever. So actually, I appreciate if anyone ever kind of gets in touch, because the basics about how you grow your online digital brand is as true for a physical business as it is for a person who wants to build an online following as well. So I always appreciate the kind of comments. Okay, so number 2, I'm going to grab a pen for this one. I'm going to go orange and blue. So for a lot of freelancers and people that work for themselves, we have Christmas coming up or your various kind of festive holidays. And actually, how do you kind of work around your workload and actually get things done? So one of the big things that I think people do underestimate, but actually it's really important, is that largely if you work for yourself, chances are if you take time off, you don't get paid. It's one of the major big things which is different to a paid employment job, where actually you get paid holidays as part of your like entitlement and that kind of thing. And actually what this can do is actually cause a lot of stress for people over Christmas, because essentially what you have is a lot of work pressure, where basically a lot of freelancers work for other companies. And as you get closer and closer to Christmas, people still have deadlines that they want to kind of, get done, but it builds a lot of pressure. But then likewise, you're also worried about your own workload. How do you actually get everything done? Because you work longer hours often. And the big thing is that likewise for a lot of people, they might be worried about not earning any money over Christmas, that there also brings added stress. That for a lot of people, Christmas can be a very difficult, stressful period for people that freelance or work for themselves or have a team, etc. as well. So what I wanted to do is just give a quick few minutes on this and my personal kind of take on this, and please kind of take it as you will. But it's really difficult, and actually I've fallen foul of this, that with launching the roadmap and what I've been trying to do, I have been putting in really, really long hours. And it was on yesterday, one of my clients, Charlotte, said to me that she was going to be off from, I think, 17th of December through to the 3rd of January. And when was I off? And the truth is, I hadn't planned any time off. Obviously, Christmas Day and stuff, I was going to be off. But the truth is, I kind of knew that I'd probably be working throughout the period. And the problem is, you can burn out, you can get stressed. And actually, I think it's really important to take time for yourself. And that's true for anyone. And then actually with, on both of these, so when you have work pressure and work stress for your clients, similar to a lot of like emotional problems and stuff that people talk about and have, it's often worse in your head than it actually is. So one of my other clients, I messaged the MD yesterday and basically said, "Hi Maureen, just let you know, if it's okay with you, I want to take off between this period and there. I'll happily work around you if anything urgent comes in, but just, just to let you know." And she actually very nicely said, "Look, absolutely no problem at all," etc. But the point is, a lot of the work pressure and stress where I was worried about actually, will I have to work over Christmas? What do I have to get stuff to do? Will I have time for myself? Will I have time for my wife, etc.? Wasn't actually as bad as I thought. But in terms of how to actually kind of tackle it when you do have stuff to do, but I think this is actually quite important for freelancers or small businesses generally, because often if you're doing well and as you're growing the business, you get to a certain point where you have more work to do than you have time to do it, which is a good problem to have, because I mean, sales isn't a problem, but then you have a logistical problem to kind of work through it. So the first thing you want to do is basically prioritize your tasks. We all have stuff that is nice to have. It could be longer term stuff that you really want to do over time or whatever. And then actually you have actual critical stuff that either someone else is waiting on you for, or it will affect someone else, or it's a delivery for a potential project or whichever. Basically, yeah, prioritize the main important stuff. And actually it's the classic 80-20 thing. 20% of your work will probably take 80% of your time, but it's probably that most important stuff that kind of happens. And actually of the remaining kind of 20%, don't actually worry if it doesn't get done. There is always stuff that if you're the kind of person who is diligent and wants to do a really good job, you always want to do the perfect job. But a lot of the time we make it difficult for ourselves where we're trying to always be perfect, but actually you can let stuff slip, and that's probably okay. But the point is, take time for yourself. Don't feel the pressure too much, especially over Christmas. Hopefully over the course of the year, you will have earned money where actually you're not worried about taking a few weeks off to actually kind of go through that process, of maybe not working for a few weeks. But if you have, know that it's quite common and it's okay and that kind of thing as well. And basically, yeah, just as a way to get through this, often it can be quite overwhelming when you just feel that you have so much stuff to do. But actually Christmas can also be a great time that when everyone else slows down, just to kind of work on your own plans, work on your own stuff for next year. And that's one of the next things I'm going to talk on. But I just thought it was really interesting. It was one of the suggestions from Fina in the Tuesday 8 p.m. session to really kind of talk about, just to highlight an issue which is genuine for a lot of people, that yeah, Christmas and stuff can be quite stressful, but actually it's not the end of the world if you kind of learn to prioritize and get through it, and hopefully have a really good time off. I'm just going to jump back to the comments. Good morning, Simon. Sorry I was a few minutes late on your comment. Really appreciate your time. And Simon, again, I'd love to know, I know you have lots of kind of plate spinning as well. Do you have any kind of time off planned with the family? Anything exciting planned? And I think it's just really important that often when people work for themselves, which arguably I do as well, we often fall into the trap of just all day, every day, being flat out. And actually, I think sometimes it's really important just to take our time, look after ourselves, enjoy some time off. It's really super important. And then likewise, look to hopefully expand and grow and have a good kind of 2022. I'm just going to take a very quick sip of tea, then I'm going to jump on to the next question or comment. But please feel free to get involved in the chat or anything like that as well. And I'd always love to help or answer any live kind of stuff as well. So, okay. The next one I'm going to jump onto. So this next one should be quite interesting actually, because it happened by chance over Instagram last weekend, I think it was. And basically what I'm going to do is talk about sales and why this I think is quite important. But there are some really easy, quick wins that you can do, which will make a real difference that actually we did this week with basically one of the guys I'm going to shout out. But actually, so the whole point of sales, people think is obvious. Obviously, it's how do you drive revenue and interest into a business? Yes, marketing falls under that same element of building brand awareness and that kind of thing as well. But at a certain point, you need to reach out and actually ask for a sale. Say hello, ask if there's anything you can do to help, and really make sure that the person that you're targeting even understands what it is that you do. So when it then comes to actually implementing this for a business, so you then have sales training, we have two different sides to it. One, you have the theory, and within the roadmap, we have 3 whole chapters on sales. Everything from sales prospecting, how to do it well, who to approach, how to approach them, how to prep your calls, that kind of thing. You have the sales presentation and meetings about how you need to be sharp and enthusiastic and passionate about what you do and really understand the client's pain points and that kind of thing. But then also all the stuff like listening and high value technical selling, where basically you listen to the buyer and really kind of understand their pain points, develop them in their own mind, and actually make sure that they fully understand the impact of non-action and therefore the value of your benefit. The point is there is tons of theory that you can really go into on sales, which is fantastic. But in terms of actually when you come to make a change, the thing that business owners actually want and need is money in the bank. So you want pounds and pence and dollars and renminbi and whichever. You want currency and you want trade. That's what you want. The issue you often have with training in particular is that you have theory, which is the stuff we teach on the course, which is actually how to be more efficient, how to approach people, what all the theory says, how to do it well, etc. But then the most important thing is the actual practice. So my point here is you can actually do all the theory in the world, read all the books on strategy, have fantastic marketing, but unless you actually kind of reach out to people and ask for the sale and actually approach people, you're kind of wasting your time. And I think for a lot of people, we need to find a balance where you teach the basic theory so people are upskilled and they get to a point where they kind of know what they're doing. They then actually start to approach people, learn, see what works, see what doesn't work. And again, different approaches for different types of people. Some people like to do online and on their phone. Some people love to do it in person. Some people like via Snapchat or voice message or video or whichever. So it's almost finding what works for you. But the big thing again is actually understanding who is it that you're targeting and how do they like to be approached. One of my clients is a recruitment firm, and something that we talked about is that if you're approaching the CEO, MD, HR director, there's a certain approach that you might take. But actually, if you're approaching a shift manager on a production line who manages 10 minimum paid staff at 2 a.m. on in an industrial estate, they're probably not going to be on LinkedIn, and they're going to be less receptive to certain forms of approach than others. But the point is you have to kind of go through this process and kind of learn to see what works. But almost the theory is useless unless you actually go out and practice it and approach people. And then what you really want to do is do that to learn and then keep iterating in terms of understand the basics, go out, approach people, see what works for you, what doesn't work, what your clients respond to, what do they not. read up on the theory and keep working like this. It's very easy to actually just well-intentioned, like pushing your stuff and approaching a lot of different people. But actually, unless you're doing it in the right way, you're going to struggle to kind of have success. So the reason why I wanted to reach out to this, that it was on, I think it was the Roadmap MBA Instagram last weekend. You have Harjit Singh, who's a chap based in India, approached me because he wanted to approach me to do with sales, marketing and stuff to basically provide that service to me. And what was quite interesting, it was that, so we swapped messages kind of over the week. So he messaged me to tell me that he really appreciated what we were trying to do with the roadmap and he thought there was a great fit for it. And again, for people in India, and that got me talking, which was really good. But then what was quite interesting was that, and we had a chat about this, so he's cool. I said I was going to mention it. But actually then he went into quite a hard sell in terms of would I buy his product or service? And the point I made is that I am someone who does buy that product or service, and therefore I've been qualified. So I'm still worth him talking to, but I'm not ready right now. And then over the course of the next hour or so, he did kind of keep chasing me and leaving me voice messages just to ask if I could set up a call with other people. And what was really interesting is that we swapped some messages and I gave him some tips and advice just to do with possible ways to maybe change his approach for future people. And so he did, and actually he messaged me back yesterday to say that it really worked with other people. And that as simple as it was to start the interaction, to talk to people, get to know them, get to respond, and especially if someone is passionate about their business as I am about the roadmap, they're probably going to respond to you. And then actually the slight change to basically say to them, look, we do this product or service, we're really good at it. If you ever need it, please just keep us in mind and I'd love to stay in touch. And what you're doing there is giving power back to the buyer. You're making them aware of what they can buy, but it's not a pushy sell that kind of puts you off. And actually what he said is actually just changing his approach to be that more receptive partner, just to offer it as as an option for people to choose. His success rate kind of went through the roof. And what was really interesting is just a tiny little steer for his whole business, can make a massive kind of difference. And then yes, there was some other stuff that we said that we would look at as well, just in terms of actually improving the website and the message and what they get across to build trust when they check them out. Because again, it's the classic thing that when someone messages you, I always check out the website, I always check out all the content. And if it's not quite good enough, you're probably not going to proceed with it or you're not going to follow up. But it's that balance of, rather than just ram your product or service down someone's throat, ask them. Yes, it's great to actually let them know what you do should they wish to buy it, but play the long game. You'll actually end up with a lot more sales, and I think it'll work much better for you. And just as some practical feedback from someone that's got a very tough gig, which is long distance sales for a fairly commoditized kind of product and trying to get people to respond over Instagram. But the point is, he messaged me back to say, actually, it really worked. And I just thought it was an interesting thing that I wanted to talk about today. But if you've got any questions, comments, anything, please comment and they pop up on the screen. Good morning, Tunde. I love it when people get involved. I hope you're kind of getting ready for the festive season. How are things going for you? Are you up to much? Please kind of send me a message. I'd love to know kind of what you're up to as well. And, hopefully all of your kind of plans, aims and goals and stuff are going really well kind of this year as well. I think you've got your copy. If not, reach out and I'll send you a copy of version 2 as well. And no, thank you for getting in touch. It's very kind of cool. Then last but not least, what time are we on? 12 minutes past 9. It's so good starting these early because I almost feel like I get half an hour back in my day, because actually I was expecting it to be nearer kind of half past as well. Okay, next one. So a lot of people, now we're getting near Christmas, will be, if they haven't already, started to plan for next year. I think it's really funny that actually with New Year's resolutions, people always have ambitions to do stuff, whatever that stuff is. Often, and we talk about on the course, is all the theory about making them smart and time bound and whatever, but often just kind of keep it simple. Within the course, we have whole sections to help you really kind of plan and execute your 3 year, 1 year, 1 month, and then 1 day kind of goals to kind of help move forward. And again, the live streams kind of work as part of that. And then even the kind of classroom sessions, almost we make each other accountable. That there's certain people, if they comment on this, I always joke every week that they still haven't built their website yet. But on the Tuesday night session with Fina, we really talk about what do we want to achieve by this time next week. And then likewise, she knows I'm going to ask her, and I know that she's going to ask me. But the point is, often when you're trying to build really big, audacious goals, big things that you want to achieve, really break it down into something called lead actions, which is what we kind of cover on the course. But actually what I wanted to do today, because I thought it was relevant for Christmas and the New Year, and a lot of people will kind of be doing their planning around about now, which is quite cool, is almost for me, the best way to do it, if that makes sense. So the first thing to do is actually know what it is that you want to achieve. One, two, three. So the first thing is you want to know what your major goals are. What is it that you actually want to achieve for your business or career? I think the trick here in your business, it's not to get too ambitious. What we really want is, if you can, make it into factual, physical things that you can achieve, not so much just monetary targets. Monetary targets are great, and we can still work on that to create the lead actions to really kind of make them happen. But actually, what are your major kind of goals for the year? And what I'm going to do as part of this session, just because I like to make it kind of relevant, I'm going to talk you through what I'm looking to do with the roadmap to make it real, if that kind of makes sense. So you got your major goals for the year. Then if you were to break that down for the month, what would it be? So for instance, if you have a really big thing that you want to achieve over the course of the year, okay, what do you need to do in January? Really kind of break it down. What are the first few steps to do? And then actually you got your month, but then you've got your day. The point is, if you want to break into, sell into, I'm going to say Fifth Avenue, Saks in New York, that's a big dream for your line of pens that you sell. The big goal is actually to sell into a big New York department store. The monthly actions will be how you kind of put all of those in place, and actually how have you started to research the procurement team in that business, or is your product, what expectations they have, what are their supplier rules and regulations, and have you put all of those things in place? They're fairly kind of big things. But then likewise, break that down into your daily actions. So actually for you, what do you need to do today to help you get towards that goal? And it could even be as simple as on LinkedIn, okay, I'm going to do a search for buyers in Saks Fifth Avenue, and then connect with some of them. But the point is really making the really big goal, which would be a life dream, and really breaking it down. It could be to speak on a stage at a really big California conference on tech. The first step often with that will be actually reaching out to people to figure out, who do we even need to approach? What even are the conferences, that kind of thing. And the point is, at least if you kind of start, break it down to kind of little baby steps and then build it up. And the point is, when people start to plan for next year, try not to get too overwhelmed with your goals for the year. And then likewise, I tend to have physical goals, which I'm actually going to talk you through. I'm going to give you my honest, genuine ones. But then don't set a time limit on them. Although we say we want them to be time bound, as in, you want to achieve them by a certain point, I just try and do them as quick as I can. I never expected to actually launch and develop version 2 of the roadmap as quick as I have. And I'll be honest with you, I'm already kind of starting to work on version 3 already. And it's just, if you can and you're passionate about something, it's a constant process that you kind of go through. But I think the most interesting bit to really kind of make this relevant, I'm going to give the Roadmap MBA roadmap for what I'm genuinely have done since launch and what I'm planning to do, just as hopefully it'll be interesting and relevant to you. But if you have any questions, please kind of reach out. So the Roadmap MBA roadmap, obviously because it's the name and I built it in, it feels stupid when you say it twice, but actually I think it's really important to have a roadmap for any product or business. And again, the whole essence of the business course is that we hopefully teach you and give you the tools and techniques to help you go through your own business. That yes, it's the Roadmap Alternative MBA. It's there as a guide to really help you do that, but it's all real kind of practical kind of stuff. So for me, if you go back to 2020, in essence, this was writing it. This was actually to go through from scratch, and I had my notes, but to actually write something like this takes a very long time. And like, honestly, it took me a very, very long time. But then also there's the graphic design, there's the layouts, there's the websites, there's stuff. But basically my 2020 was actually about writing it and getting the idea out of my head, what even could be the Roadmap MBA. Actually, I'm not even entirely sure when the point at which when I got the name to really take it from just a book to an online course and support ecosystem. But the point is I had to write it. 2021, so last year, this year, because I only actually launched in February, was about build it. So over the course of 2020, when I was starting to write it down, do all the graphic design, that kind of thing, it was only at the start of 2021, so in January, so what, 12 months ago, did I actually press go on all of the print and actually to really kind of help, bring it to life, I guess. And what was really interesting, it was the launch. So I actually launched and I first started to send it to people, I think it was technically February this year. But then what was arguably the most important thing, which I've really kind of worked on, and actually I still do every single day, is learn to see what happens. Because then what's happened over the course of the year is what I thought I was going to launch has changed to what it is now, but in a really positive way. But then likewise, I had to build it, I had to launch it, and then once I'd launched it, learn and iterate. It's the classic lean startup mentality, I guess. Was launch it, learn, get feedback, see what happens, improve it, and then launch it again. So one of the things that you've probably seen recently is I've managed to go from version 1 to version 2 within kind of 8 months. But in the process, there's the whole new brand, look and feel, layout, content, classroom sessions. I've really tried to improve the whole thing all the time. And actually, I've found that process really, really interesting. But the point is, you still have to, build it, launch it, even if you know it's not perfect, just to kind of get it live. And actually for 2022, actually I'm going to switch to orange now. So one thing I've mentioned in the past is that because I self-fund all this, so I've never actually took on any external finance, that kind of thing. So I earn money from consultancy, which is like kind of what my day job is, that I then feed back into the roadmap. And that's kind of part of how I do this, and it's how I choose to do that. I did a whole video on it last week. But the point is, when you first build something, it's very expensive to, and it takes a lot of time. And especially if you kind of do it yourself, it's a challenge. Arguably, it's the hardest bit. But associated with that, there's a lot of costs and things that you have to do to really get up to speed. So again, the brand was a big one for me. Or likewise, paying for and building this TV studio, streaming studio, I don't have to do it again next year. So all the money that I've saved, I can now actually start to deploy to accelerate. So the big theme for my 2022, and I would always recommend that if you can have a theme for what you want to do, is tell people. A lot of what my theme for this year was build it. Now it's starting to tell people. So actually one of the things that I've started to do, which I've paid for next year, is actually starting to do paid advertising. So actually, give it another plug. This is Freelancer Magazine. So Sophie and Angela that do this, really fantastic initiative, great people. It was their Christmas party that I was part of. But essentially what you have here is a community of people that all work hard, they do their own thing, and kind of run their own businesses that actually I feel that they would hopefully benefit through a lot of stuff that we do. And again, on the whole buy one gift one thing, I also understand that a lot of freelancers aren't, it's a tough gig, it's hard to really kind of make money and make your business kind of work. So again, they can actually get a completely free copy from our buy one gift one initiative. And again, I've spoke to Angela and Sophie on, doing something with them on that. But again, in terms of part to tell people, advertising is a really big part of that, which I'm really kind of starting to kind of look at. And the big goal for that is increase the users. So again, we're up to about 600 people now have had the course and really learn and what do people like to do, what do people not like to do, that kind of thing. I'm looking to increase the channels. I was going to write this down, but I'm starting to run out of room. The channels in which I talk about. So for instance, one of the big things that I've done this year is that I learned to obviously live stream on LinkedIn Live. LinkedIn is my main kind of channel. But one of the challenges I had is that you can currently only broadcast to one channel. So it's either your personal one or your professional one, as in your business page. You couldn't do both. So I wasn't particularly happy about that. So what I did about 2 months ago was buy a completely separate second machine, which is there. It's a Mac Mini. So I take my original broadcast, capture it, and then put it back through Restream to then put it onto the company page. The point is, when I'm looking to increase users and increase channels for someone that has ambitions to really, make it a global business, in some ways it kind of is. There's a lot of things that I really kind of wanted to do, which is really interesting. But then likewise, you also have to keep iterating and keep improving what you're looking to do in terms of a business and a product or service to kind of stay ahead of the market. So one of the big ones, this is a world exclusive, is that you've probably seen a lot of announcements recently to do with Facebook and the Metaverse and how the interactive experience of digital is going to evolve over time. I'm also looking to embrace that as well. So basically with the classroom sessions, you can join from your mobile phone anywhere in the world, just watch and ask questions and stuff as well. And you genuinely can do that from anywhere in the world. But we all know that in 5 years' time, maybe, instead of it just being on a 2D screen, it might be with a headset on or some glasses, and you can look around and feel like you're actually there. So starting in 2022, I'm also going to start not broadcasting, or not first, recording these kind of sessions in 360 and VR, so that people, and what I'm trying to do there is that although yes, YouTube has its own section and there's a whole following for people that just love 360 content, because actually you don't need a headset on your phone, you'd be able to look at this room but actually scroll through and look around the room and stuff as well. So I'm going to do some special competitions and stuff with that. But what I'm really doing with this is learning the craft for how to do this and how to do this well, so that if you fast forward 2, 3, 5 years, what I want to do is keep evolving this to have a genuinely world-class 360 teaching and education studio that, yes, you can still learn through all the traditional channels, your phone, your laptop, your whichever, but I want people to almost, be able to access the new technology, and I want to stay ahead of the curve. So I just, this is something I'm looking to do. So actually, that's one thing for me that I'm going to start building on, that actually the camera should arrive today, hopefully. I'm going to play with it over Christmas. And then for my Friday morning stuff, starting next year, I'm going to start filming it in 360 as well as this, just to find my feet and learn kind of how it works. But I just think it's a big thing for the future. So it goes back to my bigger long-term goals. I'm trying to build the world's best online education business platform. Is something I also want to do. The next one, which I'm going to touch on as well, I'm going to quickly press the button. Actually, no, I'm not. I was going to press the button, but I decided not to. Is that one of the things that I look at people around the world, who does what and who's really good, and Bloomberg is one of them. So at the start of this stream, you might have seen it. If not, check out the YouTube channel, it'll come back. The roadmap is genuinely in 24 different countries now. And I love it on Bloomberg when between their segments they have where they show different cities around the world based on the time of day it is. And I wanted to incorporate that into my own stream. So starting today, I actually built it yesterday. I now have that, and it's a little tiny thing, but when you're trying to get across your passion, what you're trying to do and how you do it, the quality of execution is really important. Something else I've wanted, and it's just, again, for anyone that's interested, on that hand side of the screen, I think it's on my left, once a minute or once every 2 minutes, you'll start to see some interactive graphics pop up and they plug and talk about different stuff throughout the course. I'd always kind of wanted one of those, but I didn't know how to do it, so I learned how to do it. But again, when I'm trying to create a really good interactive process for people and a really good kind of online experience, all of these things start to add up, so that hopefully in a year's time or 2 years' time, I really want to be ahead of the curve on what I'm doing with that. And it's just something I wanted to talk about. So the 360 in VR is a big one, bit of a punt, but I'm actually quite happy to do it. The next one. So one of the big challenges that anyone that does what I'm trying to do has is about credibility. And part of the challenge is that people love to have a physical textbook. It's one of the big differentiators, and bear in mind, it's really expensive to do, especially when you send out thousands of copies to people. And it's also very difficult to do. But when you launch something new, and especially as I have and do, and I've, grand ambitions to do this, I don't believe there's any better way to convince people on what you're looking to do than actually kind of reaching out and talking to them, but giving them something physical to kind of flick through and talk through. So this is my soft cover version of the roadmap, and this is what I send out all around the world. But actually they haven't arrived yet. but I'm also looking at a hardcover coffee table book for the course and what I'm really kind of looking to do over time. Because again, I have ambitions to sell via high-end retailers, Harrods, Phoenix, Harvey Nicks, Selfridges, etc. So that you can still order the same course, but actually in a way which is very attractive. But it's a nicer product that hopefully I would love to be positioned alongside either the really high-end coffee table books or your Mont Blanc watches, your wallets, your pens, your as a premium product. That's a dream and ambition of mine. And then likewise, as long as I can make the margin attractive enough, the hope is I think that'll work. And then the point is the more people who actually see roadmap stuff in high-end retailers, it adds more credibility to what I'm doing, more credibility to the live stream. And it's that trying to iterate, but basically retail is a really, really big one for me. And then last but not least is actually for 2022. Is new presenters. So I'm very conscious, and I always have been, that people don't want the Steve Pugh show, and actually I don't as well. That's not what I'm trying to kind of build. The dream for what I'm trying to do in some ways is to build the Peloton of business education. So if you know Peloton, it's an online fitness platform where they have lots of different presenters all around the world that each give live classes to talk about, well, I guess they do spinning classes, fitness, weights, whatever you wish. I want to build something similar but for this, and I would love to actually have different presenters talk on different topics, but actually broadcast and share that knowledge with the world and create the platform that people use to actually give them the skills to help them kind of move forward, if that makes sense. So one of the things that I will be kind of reaching out to some people is actually hopefully at some point you'll start to see new presenters on the roadmap channels as it grows throughout the year. And then for 2023, so I know you can't physically read that, but the big thing for 2023 is actually going for new languages. And that's full translation in terms of the textbook, the website, everything. But then likewise, presenters presenting in Chinese, in French, in Spanish, in whichever. That is the dream, and that's what I'm looking to try to build. So in some ways, when I said my goal for this year was to build it, it was all about building the structure, which I'm looking to accelerate in the future. I'm now at the point where I've kind of got the structure built. Now it's starting to advertise, increase users, get feedback, improve it, looking at some new technologies, but actually as my own business, this is how I'm looking to execute. So in terms of my grand themes and how you can almost apply this for what you're looking to do for 2022, if you take the themes as a whole, either if you haven't started yet, just look to build whatever it is that you want to do. Build it, launch it, get feedback and iterate, and it will get a lot better. But then it's okay to have grander themes on other stuff. So for instance, one is 360 VR or the Metaverse. That's a big thing that I want to start to explore. And the way I'm doing it, I'm ordering the cameras, I'm learning how to edit the video and how to kind of do that. That's really important. You got retail, are both designed up and I've had made, they just haven't arrived yet. The hardcover retail coffee books that when I start to approach retailers, the approach will be to ask for feedback on what they think so that when I then do a larger production run, it's already tailored to what they actually want. I haven't just ordered 1,000 books of what I think they want and then push them on them. And again, that's almost doing this. So it's to learn, iterate. I'm trying to just do that as quick as I can. And then last but not least, the ambition to both grow the roadmap platform, both through new presenters. New languages won't happen in 2022. But I've already started to plan how I want that to happen. And basically, yeah, just for the sake of this, I love to talk about what I'm doing, just because hopefully it gives credibility and trust to anyone that watches this, that actually I don't just sprout theory. This is stuff that I'm going to do and I am doing, and you will hopefully see me execute over kind of the next year or so as well. So I'm going to call it quits on that one at 9:33. I genuinely appreciate everyone's time. I love the feedback. I hope you all have a fabulous kind of Christmas coming up. Going back to my previous point, make sure you take some time off. It is kind of important. But then if you want to learn and build and grow your business for the future, please kind of reach out. I would love to have you involved on the Roadmap MBA. All of the quality information, I genuinely do believe, and I'll stand by this, you can put this up against any product in the world, genuinely. And I think it's up there to help as the roadmap to help you grow your business or career. And then all of the classroom sessions, live Q&As, interviews, that kind of thing, they're all there just to help supplement that and give the extra bit of support, and also extra depth and flavour in a way that nobody else, I believe, has kind of done this, because it's really difficult to do. But that's also part of the kind of USP. So I'm going to call it quits there at 9:34. Thank you for your time as always. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to kind of reach out, and I'll speak to you soon. All right, cheers guys. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.